These are the problems, the first 6 problems of the study guide for Test 1 of Quarter 2. Let's take a look at the first problem. Remember, all these problems on the front side of the study guide look exactly like the test problems. So you shouldn't be surprised when you see the problems. That's why we go over them. Well, anyhow, the first question you'll see asks us to determine whether the point 618 lies on the line defined by, and then they have an equation. Well, all you're going to do is you're going to take the x value, which is 6, and you're going to put it in place of x. And then you're going to take the y value, which is 18, and put that in place of y. So all it is a substitution problem. And then it becomes order of operation afterwards. So we still have this 2/3, and we're multiplying by 6. And I'll treat 6 as a fraction, 6 over 1, so you can see the cross-canceling that will happen. And then 1/3 multiplied by y. Now y again was 18, so I'm going to write that one as a fraction as well. And then this is a minus 2 afterwards. And so what we'll end up doing is cross-canceling here. 3 will go into the 6 2 times, and then I'll multiply across, and I get 4. On the other side, 3 goes into 18 6 times. I multiply across, and I get 6. I bring down that minus 2, and then do that subtraction last. So it's 4 equals 4. So on the test, I do want you to carry it down all the way to the 2 numbers that equal. Show me that those 2 numbers equal. And if they do, like they do here, we would say yes. That point is on the line. If they did not equal, I would say no. It is not on the line. And so that's the only way to prove that a point actually does lie on the line. The next question you're going to see asks us to find the x and y intercepts of a line defined by, and then they'll give you an equation like the one I have here. So we're going to end up having 2 parts to this answer, the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So I would divide it into 2 separate problems. When I find the x-intercept, I'm going to set y equal to 0. And that will cancel out this y term. So I'm only left with 1/16 x equals 3. On the other side, for the y-intercept, I'm going to set x equal to 0. Now when I do that, it cancels out this x term. So all I'm left with is negative 3y equals 3. So you can see how you're coming up with 2 different answers, and there are 2 different intercepts that we'll graph later on. But for right now, we just need to get rid of this coefficient in front of the x term and the one in front of the y. So whenever you've got a fraction as a coefficient, you can multiply by the reciprocal. And that's what I did over here. And so once I do that, I've still got x on the left-hand side, but now it equals 48. And that would be your answer. So it'll say x-intercept down below, and you just write the number 48. You could also write it as 48, 0, and put that in parentheses. That would show the ordered pair for the x-intercept. Either way, I'll take the answer. For the other part of this problem, we need to solve for y. And we're going to divide, in this case, by negative 3. And then we'll have y by itself. And so the y-intercept is negative 1. And you can write the answer just like that, y equals negative 1, or you could write it as an ordered pair. Since x was 0, and we got negative 1 for y, that's what would go inside the ordered pairs. The next 4 problems are going to ask you to graph. So let's take a look at this first one here. It says y equals x plus 2. So we're going to start with that y-intercept. We're going to go up 2 spaces on the y-axis. Then we're going to use the slope. So remember, the slope is the number that changes the inputs each time. It's the number right in front of x. If you don't see a number, you can always use the number 1. And that 1 would tell me, if I wrote that as a fraction, what to do in the y direction and what to do in the x direction. So this tells me to go up and then to the right. So I can do that a few times. Up 1 over 1 to the right, and I'd have points on that line. Remember, you can also go the other way. You can go down and then to the left. And that gets you on that same exact line. Once you've got a few points, you can draw the line between those points. So the next problem that we see looks very similar. It's in that slope-intercept form. But the difference between this is the type of slope that we're going to end up seeing. And we'll talk about that right after we start with our y-intercept. So we're going to go down one space on the y-axis. And I'll put a dot there, because that is our y-intercept. Whenever you have y by itself, if you cancel out the x term, and we're setting that equal to 0, we're just left with y equals -1. So that's why that's the y-intercept. Now we take a look at the slope. Now the slope for this one, not only is it a different number, it's also a negative number. So that's going to have the line going in a different direction. A -2 tells me to go down. The +1 tells me to go right. So I'm going to go down 2, right 1. Down 2, right 1. And you'll notice that if you go the other way, up 2, left 1, you'll end up on that same line. And so up 2 spaces, left 1, puts me on that line as well. So from that point, we can go ahead and draw the line between those points. Well, the next two problems just say to graph. So you can use any method, but for these problems, it will be more advantageous for us to use intercepts. So I'm going to find the x-intercept for this problem because x and y are on the same side. When we do that, we want to set y equal to 0. And for the y-intercept, we're going to end up setting x equal to 0. So let's see what's left over. If I set y equal to 0, I still have 2x equals 6. So that would require me to do just one step of dividing by 2, and I would have my answer. X equals 3. So I'm going to go over 3 spaces on the x-axis and put a dot there. Well, for the y-intercept, I'm going to do the same sort of thing. Again, remember I set x equal to 0, so I'm left with a -3y equals 6. So I'm going to divide by -3, and that gives me my y-intercept of -2. So that tells me to go down 2 spaces on the y-axis, put a dot there, and allows me to draw a line between those points, and I've got my answer. Well, the last problem is just like number 5. And so we're going to go ahead and do the same work. I'm going to find that x-intercept first, and I'm just going to set y equal to 0. So I'm going to take out this y term, and it leaves me just with that 4x equals 4. And so from there, I can do that one opposite operation of dividing by 4 on both sides, and we'll have our x-intercept. So x equals 1. So I'm going to go over one space and put a dot. Now I can find the y-intercept by setting x equal to 0. And so when I do that, it cancels out this x term, leaving me only with 2y equals 4. And so from that point, I can go ahead and divide by 2 and come up with my answer. So y equals 2. So I'm just going to go down 2, or up 2 spaces. Up 2 because it's a positive 2. And put a dot there. And then be able to draw a line between those 2 points. So, those are the first 6 problems. We've got 3 more to go, and that'll be in part 2.